This is 5 Minute Feng Shui Podcast episode 134, Personal Chi Traps, Part 1. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui Podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Hello, my Feng Shui friend. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode about burnout. This week, we're going to be talking about personal chi traps. These are those things that we sort of find ourselves stuck in, situations, relationships, jobs, you name it. We have a way of kind of recreating things for ourselves. And sometimes there are positive ways, like, good health habits, like, eating well or exercising regularly, that kind of thing. And sometimes they're negative, things that are maybe old tapes or emotional baggage that we hold on to, or that we go over and over in our minds about. And these are personal chi traps. We have external chi traps, and those are like clutter. Maybe we continue to live in a house that has a front door that squeaks every time we open it, or drags on the carpet, and it's an annoyance. And those kinds of energy traps are ones that are fixable. But sometimes those other energy traps are not always in our consciousness. We're not always aware of them, like a squeaky door. It gets our attention. And this is a subject that is part of, again, that sort of feng shui between the ears. And I'm talking about this week because, and actually last week was about burnout. I'm talking about chi traps this week, and I'm going to be talking about chi trap solutions next week, because I do think that we are the source of our own solutions. I'm a big believer in that, because if you see something as outside of yourself, then everything's going to be out of your control. And that's never a good thing, right? And I find that no matter what, you are in control. And I learned that when I was in high school, because I read Viktor Frankl's seminal book, Man's Search for Meaning. And this is about a psychiatrist that was in a concentration camp during the Holocaust and World War II. And he found that he had a choice every day. And even in the worst of circumstances, he had choices. And so that really just opened up my mind, opened up my world. It gave me so much hope, that book did. And it's near and dear to my heart, because I can see how you can be in such a bleak way that you just don't think there's a way out. And there is always something else that we can do. It's a question of our willingness. And we're going to be talking about those habits, and we're going to be talking about those traps that keep us stuck, because right now I'm getting so many emails and so many, well, I've actually gotten letters and people contacting me about this sort of weariness that's been soaking in. And I want you to be thinking about how you're feeling. And is there something around you that can keep you trapped and feeling stuck? And we're going to be talking about those chi traps. But today, as I'm recording this episode, I want to mention to you that there's a really important event in the sky, and it's the lunar eclipse. Now, a lunar eclipse is when there's a full moon, and it is it's eclipsed, where its light is blocked by the earth, and this is something that signifies an ending. It signifies that something is coming to a close, and this is something that we need, because there are some times that we need to have somebody shut the door behind us in order for us to go forward, and the cosmos does that. And this is a really nice, what I would call housekeeping duty that the moon does for us and the sun does for us. And while it may be something that you may not want to get move past from or get out of or see a closure on, most of the time when we get some kind of closure, even if it's not one we like, it is something that allows us to move forward in our life. And today we're talking about those chi traps, and these are our energy traps that keep us stuck and unable to move forward. So I'm hoping that with the lunar eclipse that has just happened last week and with the solar eclipse that's coming on June 10th, this is a new beginning. I want you to take time to be thinking about these episodes that I've recorded here this past week, today's episode, and next week's. And this is all about personal feng shui because I'm very concerned about many readers and listeners who are talking about the energy that they feel like is so oppressive. And we are dealing with a collective weariness. It is. And so if you felt like you are just bone weary and you are dragged out, you just, your energy is suffering and you just don't have the same well of energy to draw on as you usually have or had in the past, I want to encourage you to think positively. We have a solar eclipse that's coming up, and that's a beginning. I want you to be thinking of the time as we're going through it, because as you're listening to this, we're in a Mercury retrograde. That means we have a time to reflect. We have a time to revise, review, reconsider. Just whatever word you want to use, reorganize, recommit, whatever that is, this is that time that we can do that. And the Mercury retrograde ends on June 22nd. So this will enable us to move forward with gusto again. And the lunar eclipse also is a big propellant, helping us to propel ourselves forward again as well. So take this time, if you can, to indulge yourself in some, and when I say indulge, I really mean give yourself the permission to spend time on yourself in thought, in reflection, meditation, in reconsidering and reviewing all of those things that have no longer served you and the things that have kept you back. So with that, let's start talking about chi traps. These are our personal energy times when, or situations where it just feels like, the world is, the odds are stacked against you. The world's turns its back on you, and whatever you touch just doesn't work out. Maybe things keep breaking, or relationships are challenging you at every turn. Sometimes something happens that we just don't expect. And if this happens frequently, like an accident, a disease, a natural disaster, it can just take all the wind out of you. Whatever the cause, though, when bad luck in your life seems to stack up like cars in a rush hour, it's hard not to feel desperation creeping in, or when you feel like your circumstances are outside of your control. You get sort of that desperate kind of feeling. You get that it pulls a plug on your energy, and it happens to everyone. There are some people, though, who do stay trapped in their circumstances, like someone unable to move, like when they're being electrocuted. That's because their personal energy is trapped. Now, what causes one person to be able to move past difficulties and others to stay stuck in them? Well, there are some key causes, I find, that keep personal energy stuck in difficult circumstances and keep us with those personal difficulties. And it's important that we look at changing not just our home's chi, but our chi. So let's talk about some of the personal chi traps that you can find yourself stuck in. One is desperation and despair. This type of energy is one that can lead to hopelessness or even desperate behavior. The desperate person can often seek a solution that's outside of them. But feng shui works best when you combine your efforts in your life, like searching for a job, with feng shui, like activating your career sector. And when a desperate person reaches for something outside themselves first, they might find that their feng shui doesn't support them. Energy may not seem to move, or it stays stuck, and situations just continue in a negative progression. And I find that the solution there is to reach a neutral emotional state. This is going to help you kind of remove the emotion from it, because once you're desperate and despair, it's a lot like chasing a horse. It never works. Horse is always going to outrun you. When you're chasing something out of desperation, like a new job or something like that, it's going to run away from you. I find that if you can sit back, be neutral, and make your efforts, but don't chase it, it's amazing how things can come to you. Now let's talk about the complaining trap. Difficult circumstances can sometimes cause us to become blind to a way out. We may look for unique or maybe alternative ways to improve our luck or circumstances, like through feng shui. And then we may complain when it doesn't work. But you have to ask yourself if what you've done is what you really needed to do to make your feng shui work. So a good example of that was when I was trying to sell a house. I complained about the limited number of showings, even though I knew I needed to move a large piece of furniture from the house to help the energy move so that our house would sell. However, I didn't want, and for you that are trying to sell your home, that is moving the heaviest piece of furniture from the southernmost portion of your house. You find the south corner, find whatever piece of big furniture is there, and get out of there. It works like a charm every time. But what I had in that corner was a big behemoth of a china cabinet, all loaded with crystal and china. So yes, that didn't mean I just moved that piece of furniture. It meant that I would have to move all of that china, all of that crystal, and I just didn't want to do that. But I knew it was the thing that I had to do to get our house sold and start moving, but I wanted to complain about it. See, sometimes we want to complain about something rather than do it. And it's a trap. Complaining is a trap. And I found myself feeling that the move was out of my control, and that I was complaining because even though I said I wanted to move, I didn't want the responsibility of doing the thing that would make us move. Yes, I am flawed. I am a flawed feng shuier, and everyone is. It's true. And finally, I got tired of hearing myself complain. And we moved that china cabinet, and the house sold within days. I kid you not, with multiple offers over the asking price. So even if you aren't complaining out loud, are you going over and over in your mind with negative statements? I mean, the truth is, I did want to sell my house, but I didn't want to move the furniture before the house sold. I was going to have to pay movers to come in and move it. Also didn't want to have to go through the hardship of moving. It's true. And this is the trap. I didn't want to move the furniture. I wanted the house sold, but I didn't want to move. Anybody understand that? If you've ever had to move and have moved or moved frequently, you know the pain that I'm talking about. But sometimes, well, actually often, what we complain about is the thing that we have to take responsibility for, or it's something that inconveniences us or causes short-term discomfort. But complaining, even while applying feng shui to your home, will stop the energy of change to the situation you say you want to be out of. Feng shui has to be applied to your mind and your home, because it's amazing, and to your efforts. So think about, and what I'm complaining about, are my efforts and my complaints out of whack? Is what I'm saying I want to do in line with what I'm doing? And I had to get real about it. I had to start packing up that china, start packing up that crystal. And it's interesting, by getting chi moving, I got moving. Isn't that how it works? Yes, that is how it works. All right, well, let's talk about another chi trap. And this is the worry circle. That is that little squirrel in a cage, or hamster in a cage, or whatever, your choice of rodent. This is a type of personal energy that just stops your feng shui progress. And worry is something that somehow it seems noble to many people, as if your level of concern is greater. It makes you more sympathetic or empathetic. And you might even feel that your worrying is actually productive. This is one I love, is that people, I ask them what they've done about it. Oh God, I've been thinking about this so much. It's just, I can't get it off my mind, as if that is the thing they're doing. It's not. It's not a helpful thing. It's not productive, right? But it's easy to turn your worry into a replacement for action and productivity, and that's the trap. Being forever worried or anxious keeps you stuck in a loop, and the only antidote for worry is action. Because, like my house selling example, I was worrying about filling up all those boxes with china and crystal and having movers come in and move the big piece of furniture before the big move. I just didn't want to do movers twice, but I knew that's what would do it. And so I worried and worried about it as if I was doing something productive, and it wasn't productive. And it ended up taking more time to sell the house. But then once I did it, it was done. And that's amazing. And it took me off that worry circle. Now let's talk about problem loving. Yeah, I know this is a tough one. And a lot of people can't imagine. Now, I do personal coaching. And this is something that I do see come up. People love their problems. I love my problems. Everybody loves their problems. They may not say that, but many times we use our problems as a crutch. And even though it sounds counterintuitive, you can love your problems. Maybe you enjoy all that suffering and you like to count the ways that you endure your difficulties. Oh, I've done this and I've done that, and it's just been so hard. Maybe you make a great point about everything you're having to endure, like pulling the petals on a daisies, petals on a daisy. It's like, and I did this and I hate it, and I did that and I hate it. Counting your hardships just creates that cycle of problem loving. But before you can move on from a problem, you have to ask yourself honestly, if there's some part of you that's enjoying that hardship. Is it keeping you stuck, or is it removing the personal responsibility for creating what you do want from your life? Or do you keep up the same habits but complain about your circumstances? This is a recipe for a life that rewards you based on pity. Pity is a powerful drug that can cut off opportunity, personal growth, and advancement, and suck the joy out of life until it looks like a daisy with all the petals torn off. Admitting that you enjoy pity or the worry of others or yourself, and that it feels good, gives you the option to decide if this is a healthy way to live or the way that you intend to live, and to change if it isn't. This is so important that we want to get out of our problem loving. For me, I was loving my problem of, oh, I've got to do this, and then I have to hire the movers, and they'll have to come, and I don't want to have to start moving before I actually do the move. And I was loving that problem in my moving example. Now let's talk about living in fear. Now this is akin to waiting for the other shoe to drop. When you live in fear, you're always in the waiting place for the next problem, even when you don't feel afraid. This can dam your personal energy, and I mean dam like a dam, of water dam. Dams your energy and keeps you in those circumstances that dress themselves up differently, yet replay over and over again. Feng Shui is about flow and movement. Fear is about stuck and stagnant. Fear keeps us frozen by keeping us in paralyzing situations that we can't move on from. Sometimes you have to stay in circumstances like a job or a relationship that depletes you because of the reality of children, or you've got house payments to make, or, eating. But it doesn't mean that you can't grow out of the situation and move on from it. And just like taking action, I can't say enough, taking action, that is the antidote to all these chi traps that we've talked about today, like living in fear, problem loving, and the worry cycle. So let's talk about I want to leave you with 3 tips, the 3 things that keep you stuck. One is the complaining trap. If you complain about those circumstances, but you don't act on it, then it's going to keep you stuck, right? The same thing is true with the worry circle. And that is thinking that you are more noble, or you're actually making an effort by spending time thinking about it and ruminating on it, and your wheels spinning. The antidote has got to be always action, no doubt about it. And then lastly, I want to talk about when you're just at your wit's end. You're at the end of your rope and you feel just desperate. And this is also a trap. And I know sometimes there are situations where you are desperate and you can despair, but this can lead to even more of a deeper hole. This is the concern that I have, is that desperation and despair will create a deeper hole for you. I know people in circumstances right now that are just they're desperate feeling. They feel so much despair, trapped and hopeless. Here's what I can say. Move into a neutral emotional state. Try to make sure that in your mind you go, I hate this. This is horrible. My life sucks. Everything is bad. Whatever self-talk you have, just eliminate it. Just say, okay, it is what it is. This is what I'm going to do. This is my plan, and these are the steps I'm going to take. But don't put labels on things. Avoid making any kind of labels. Slip into a neutral emotional state. I know it may sound hard, but it's actually not hard to take judgment out. The more judgment you can take out, the more it will lessen that desperation and despair. Okay, we've talked about personal chi traps and where you can fall into them. And you may have one, you may have a whole bunch of them. I know that I gave you some examples that showed 3 or 4 right there in my example of not wanting to move my big old china cabinet. So, and what happened once I stopped complaining about it and thinking about it, ruminating about it, and despairing about it, and actually got out boxes and wrapping paper and actually started putting everything away. It's amazing how energy got moving again. That's my big tip for you, my big bonus tip. Take action. All right, I will talk to you next week on the next episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. Have a great week. I'm thinking of you always.